Hello, Raquel. It's me, Evan. If you're not Raquel, my sister, and you're watching this and you want to check out more of my art, you can see my stuff on Instagram at mr.mayo.art, mr.mayo.art. Anyway, this is a tutorial for my sister on how to do some watercolor techniques since she just got some watercolors for Christmas. But yeah, I have a similar set. I'm stepping down from my usual stuff to do a bit more with the kind of classics here. You may expect something like this out of most kind of beginner sets that you get, where instead of a tube paint, you get this kind of block of watercolor here. So yeah, here's kind of what I'm working with a little bit. You can see the colors. I may not have everything in here, but I think the main thing I don't have is gonna be a red color. However, since I do have some of the tubes, I will be cheating a little bit and using a little bit of the tube paint to get a red, because the primary colors are gonna be blue, red, and yellow. With those colors, you can theoretically make any color. However, well, depending on which color scale you're using. But for you, I'm just gonna start with blue, red, and yellow. I'm going to be painting this lighter. I've had this lighter for a long time. I think it's a good one. So I'm gonna be showing you how to paint this lighter, and hopefully you can transfer some of this knowledge and technique to your flowers that you've been painting. All right, well, let me get started then. Okay, since I know you're not really drawing initially, I've gone ahead and done an already outline of kind of my subject. I'm still kind of sick. I apologize for my voice being the way it is. I'm trying my best to talk, but it definitely hurts. You can see I've kind of done a loose outline of my subject here and what I plan to paint. I know you're working with pre-made subjects, so I'm not too focused on that right now. Hopefully you can see everything all right. First thing I'm gonna do is I wanna be able to paint this whole entire thing. So I'm gonna take some water. I'm working with 3 brushes here. Pretty sure you have similar ones, so that's why I chose these. Got a flat brush, a thicker tipped, and then a more finite tipped brush here. This is, again, a tutorial. I'm not going for a masterpiece here. So what I'm gonna do is get this brush wet, see how I like it. Okay, and I am just gonna start soaking in exactly where I want the painting to be. I've kind of got my whole subject here wet now. There's gonna be some warping. I haven't tied everything down properly yet. And I'll try to put a picture up here somewhere of what my reference looks like as I'm painting it. Now it's not gonna be exact as the reference. I'm just using it as a jumping off point. The first thing I'm noticing when looking at the reference is that around it, I've got all this white, right? White's gonna be the whitest color in this. Because I'm trying to explain some more and I'm gonna try to show the more pigmentation, I'm actually gonna go ahead and get really wet brush here and take some of that white pigmentation that I have. I think you have some as well. And I'm just gonna kind of dabble it in there. Now with watercolor, it's always tough because you can always add, but you can't take away. So that's why I'm starting with the white color, because I can always add more color to it, but I won't be able to take away that white color. Since white is just one of the most neutral ones I can use in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and add some, and then as time goes on, I will be able to blend that more later. Okay, maybe hard to see, but completely soaked. I've got some whites added, everything like that. Oh, there we go. I didn't realize that. So it's already starting to warp, as I said. It's just gonna do that, unfortunately, unless I really primed it correctly. Okay. So next step is, I think that one of the easiest things for me to do here is to begin looking at some of the other lighter colors, okay? So I know that I'm gonna want to block in this piece. I'm gonna clear my brush. And when I say clear it, I'm just dipping it in some water. I'm taking a towel, and I'm getting the rest of that pigmentation out of there. So now I've got a clean brush of that white. What I want to do is, since one of the lighter colors is going to be this yellow, I think I'm going to mix a very light yellow to begin getting in this pigmentation. So I'm going here to my mid-yellow color. I'm going to take this, put it in there. Okay, I can kind of see I've got a slight yellow going on here, very light. You can kind of see here, very light yellow. It's not super wet, so what this allows me to do is I'm going to use the reference points. So right now I'm using the edge. I know that the bottom of that glass is going to be about here from the edge. I just can barely see. Oh, I didn't realize that wasn't in frame. Let me move this. Okay. See, the bottom of the edge is just barely right here, so I put a little mark here. All right, so that's going to be the bottom of it. And then on the other side, I'm going to repeat, mark where the bottom is compared to the white, where the yellow starts. Okay, so I don't know if that was really far enough, but since I did it so lightly, it allows me to pull it in a little bit more, and I can fix that later. I know that the top part, it'll come down from the very top and go to about right here, about 3/4. And I'll come here and I'll just kind of block in the edge a little bit. This will come up about here, and I'll be able to bring it up. It's about, again, it's around halfway, closer to 3/4, different measurements like that. And I'll kind of do an outline like that. All right, and then I'll be able to complete the same thing on the other side using this yellow, where I am going to take that measurement. I'm just using reference points as the outside, and I'm gonna match it here to this other side, but since it's got a curvature to it, it won't look the exact same on this side. So I've kind of got that structure laid out. You can see a little bit, I've got a bit of an hourglass going on here. And that's going to be like the beer in it. Does it look 100% right? No, I wouldn't say so, but I'm not striving for perfection here. I'm just striving to show you. If I was really looking for perfection, I would be doing this slightly different, but I think this is a good tutorial. What I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to start lining up some of these other objects. I've got the hourglass thing in there now. You have to excuse me for my voice again. Definitely still sick and it hurts to talk. Okay, so what I can see on this glass, on the lighter, is I can see that there is a stream of beer running down, and that's gonna go about here. And then I can also see that the glass is kind of tapered there. Keep in mind, my perspective is definitely going to be different than the pictures as well. So I've kind of got some line running down here. I can see that that doesn't come all the way in either. So I'm just gonna bring that line all the way up, trying to kind of match it with the line I'm seeing on here. Okay, so I know it goes to about here. Let me get some more. I'll probably cut this out or something. More yellow here. Alright, and what sketching this in light like this allows me to do is if I need to go back and change something later, it'll be pretty easy for me to do so. Okay, I think I'm gonna come in here now. I know that the beer glass goes all the way to the edge from my perspective. So I kind of want to match the top there with the top that I'm seeing on the lighter. So I'm just gonna put in some lines there. Alright, and I'm gonna bring that down so it matches up with that. And then I can see I'm making out a type of like shape in that foam there. And I want to pull that shape out of this beer glass. That way I know where the next line is going to be. So that's all I'm doing, pulling that shape out. Now, since I have that shape there, I know that this is going to warp around that. So I've kind of got the basic done there. Now, one thing I'm noticing is I don't love the perspective of this. It's pretty accurate. However, since it's my art, I can do whatever I want to it. I want it to look a little bit different, so I'm going to pull this out just a little bit more. I'm going to start this curve just a little bit earlier. That way it looks more even to me, because I think that looks slightly better. Okay, so what I've done so far is I've wetted it, and I've got the base points down for what the beer glass is going to look like. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you couldn't see that. Okay, so I've wetted it, and I've got kind of the outline there for what that beer glass is going to look like on that lighter. So my next step is I'm going to start blocking in a little bit of these colors. Okay, I'm going to pause it real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, now I've kind of got that down a little bit more. Just clear my brush again. What I'm looking at with this beer glass, okay, is I can see that there's in the center, the lightest part, other than the white, is gonna be this kind of yellow color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna get some more of that yellow, and I am gonna get kind of diffuse, put some water down, but I'm just gonna keep working with it until I like it. Okay, so I've kind of got it here, and I can see down the center, there's gonna be this yellow pigmentation. So I'm gonna start laying that in there. Bottom here, the glass is a little bit yellow right here too, and some of the reflection on that glass. But yeah, now I've kind of got that yellow. So that opens the door for me to start adding in some of these other colors here. I'm looking at it, and it kind of looks like a dirty, kind of yellow, brownish color from there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna begin mixing some of these colors. So I'm gonna get some water down. I'm gonna put some of the yellow in there. I can see, let's see here if I can get this. Okay, so I'm trying to match that color a little bit. If I were to try to match that completely, I think it's definitely got a little bit more of brown to it. I don't want to dilute it completely, so I'm going to use this camel brown a little bit, just adding a little tiny bit in there. Let's see here. Maybe needs a little bit more. Okay, so this is going to be a really warm version of what I need. I need to cool it down just a little bit. So in order to cool it down, I think I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add a little bit of blue. Just a little tiny smidge. I'm just going to grab a little tiny bit. I might need some more yellow. I'm trying to build a whole entire color here. Okay, so I've kind of got this color now. And I'm going to dilute it just a little bit more. And then from here, I'm going to start lining up some of these other shapes here. So I kind of want to blend these colors together a little bit better than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap here, get it diluted a little bit more, and then just run some water over that to kind of spread out the colors. This allows me to kind of get those pigments broken up and blended together a little bit more. Now just keep in mind, since I'm doing that, I'm going to have to go over and clarify a little bit more on. Okay, so I've kind of got a nice mid-tone there. I can see that it kind of comes together in the center too, so I'm going to dilute it just a little bit more, put it in there, and I'm going to kind of grab that and pull it together again in the middle there. It's not perfect, but it's starting to get the job done. I don't think maybe I'll do those bubbles later on. I'm not too sure I feel about doing that yet. I think what I'm going to do from here is come back in and lighten some of that initial yellow pigment now that I've kind of got a good outline for where it is. Just get that nice and bright. You can definitely see the warping happening on the page. From here, I think what I'm going to do next is I am just going to darken this up a little bit more. So I'm going to take that color, I'm going to add a little bit more of this brown. This brown is kind of like a reddish brown, that's why I'm using it. And I want it to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to come in with maybe, I don't want it to be, it might be, I'm going to come up here with some of that ultramarine blue again. Just adding a little bit. I want it to be a little bit darker. Maybe add some of that blue still to it. Okay. Okay, so now I've kind of got this like darker color here. I'm going to use that to come back in and start adding some of this other shadows here. So off the bat, I can tell that it's doing a great job of outlining where some of these shadows are for me. And now I think what I'm going to do from here is, I'm not in love with how it's turning out completely. I'm just adding some more pigment over it to help blend it out just a little bit. Make it kind of blend together. So I think what I'm going to do now is let this dry for a minute. Kind of see, I've got some of the lights and shadows here happening. I'm going to let that dry for a minute and I'm going to come right back to it. So I'll see you in a second. Okay. I've let it dry a bit more, maybe longer than it needs to dry, but whatever, I don't care. One thing I'm noticing about this is that it's definitely a lot darker up here, around some of those sides areas than what I've portrayed. So what I think I'm going to do is definitely kind of, but it's also got a warmth to it, and that's kind of be a sienna coloration there. So I'm going to bring in some of that here, but I want it to be maybe slightly darker. So I'm just going to go ahead and make that, and I'm going to kind of start seeing how this lays out. Okay, yeah, I like that. But yeah, I need to come up with some more coolness. So I'm gonna take. Oh, that accidentally went over way further than I wanted it to. Okay, hopefully that stays a little bit. Alright, so I'm gonna take some of this, use some Prussian blue now to kind of get some of this in here. I'm gonna add just a little bit of that. Okay, and then I'm gonna keep darkening this section up here because that section is dark. And then, yeah, I'm gonna add some more coolness to this area, kind of push it back a little bit more. I want to come in and add a little bit of a darker color, I think, here. I'm gonna take some of this darker brown here and add that in there. It's got a really nice kind of warmth to it. Take some yellow, diffuse it just a little bit. Just kind of a nice dark, warm, brownish color. I'm gonna start laying this in here. And I think for my purposes, I'm gonna do that. Maybe add just a little bit more to this cast shadow here. Kind of bring that down just a little bit. I want it to be more pigmented, so I kind of gotta get rid of some of this water here. So that's what I'm gonna do. Just get rid of some of that water and then keep working with it. And then I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna clear the brush and I'm gonna take some of this yellow again. Some of this kind of like original yellow color. And I'm just gonna run it over everything. Just really kind of get that to blend in a little bit more. Since water has like a subtractive quality to it, what I can do is kind of just start diffusing some of these as well. I can use the water to kind of pull up that a little bit. Now, one thing I can do here to add some more whites back is I can get just a little bit of water, not much, just a little bit. And I am just gonna repeatedly grab that white color. Just really get a heavy pigment on that. Again, just kind of like trying to get rid of so much. And I've got a very heavy pigmented white here. I'm gonna use it to just kind of layer it on there. But yeah, just kind of layering it on. Get some more pigmentation coming in here. Got that. I'm gonna add maybe a little bit of coloration to this here. So what I'm thinking is it looks like to be kind of a warm coloration going on because it's reflecting off of that. So I'm just gonna bring in some of this kind of yellowish brown here. And I'm just gonna kind of touch it up just a little bit. Get some of that reflection going on here. And then I need to darken some of these a little bit, but it looks like it's more of blue. So I'm gonna take some of that Prussian blue again. Maybe a little too much. Take that Prussian blue, get it in there. And then I'm gonna take some of this brown, add that together because that'll make like a nice kind of dark gray color here. And it's maybe a little bit too much. I need a little bit more pigment here because I want a little bit harder line. I'm just gonna go in and kind of add that to make it a little bit lighter even, I kind of want to take some more pigmentation here. I'm just going to test it out a little bit, okay? And then I'm just going to maybe add a little bit some of this in here to get some of this dark to really come through. Again, I do not claim to be an expert watercolor painter. I'm just kind of doing some of these things. Now, if I were to do oil painting, I could really give you a more in-depth explanation on a lot of that. But right now, I'm just kind of trying to match up some of this. Again, I've just also kind of toned down on a little bit of the usage of water here to get some of these heavier lines coming in. And for my own sake, it's not showing up as much in the actual thing, but I think it would look better if it had some breakage here, just to kind of sell the suds a little bit more. I'm gonna add some of that. And then I want to come back in and darken this up a little bit more, getting rid of some of that water, taking some of that heavy pigment here, and I'm just gonna kind of come in and add some harder lines here. I'm gonna come back in and add a little bit of this cooler color. So over top here. I've kind of got that a bit more. You can see I'm not in love, but I think it does the purpose. Okay, I'm going to kind of blend this out a little bit more because I want this to be. Okay, so the big thing that's going to sell this is if I were to spend more time rendering it, maybe if it was a little bit better watercolor as well. But I'm just trying to show the technical aspects of this. Okay. So there's some of that. You can kind of see I think I'm selling the point decently of what it is at this time. I might try to blend some of these out just a little bit. Again, just adding some water to it. Just kind of pull on that away. But yeah, I think it's kind of selling the point. I think it's definitely selling it. I'm gonna maybe pull some of this paint away here. Is one important thing about this is the cast shadow. The cast shadow is gonna really sell the fact that it's alive. So one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of bring in some gray here. This is gonna be like, I mean, not gray, this is gonna be a darker brown, okay? And then I'm gonna bring in some of my blue that I want. I think I'm gonna use a Prussian blue. It's a blue I'm pretty familiar and comfortable with. Okay, and then I am going to look at the subject. And I know that around this edge here is going to be super dark. So I'm feeling some of that. And the object is basically just casting a shadow, hence the term cast shadow. So I'm just going to try to add in a little bit of that. That way I can try to sell the fact that this object is existing on a plane and not just floating in space. And then what I'm going to do from here is, since I have this dark color, I'm going to use it to kind of quickly just hit some of these spots as well. Just kind of allow that dark color to have a double usage here. Where I'm going to begin painting in some of this silver. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Oh well, whatever. I'll turn that to something cool later on. I'm not gonna necessarily paint these things, extra things that it's shown, so I'm just gonna do this. Clear my brush. Okay, I wanna maybe sell that there's a little bit of blue going on in here as well, which there tends to be. These kind of silver line things. Okay, now I'm gonna take some of this and mix color, and I'm gonna dilute it some more, and then I'm just gonna pull that through. And I know that the only true white spots are gonna be kind of like this area right here on the tip, and then other spots, but it kind of sells it well. I think one thing I can really do is then come back in with this darker stuff again. Maybe even darken it up just a little bit more. Using that Prussian blue and brown to kind of get that dark color going on. I need some more Prussian blue. Some more brown. Okay, so I've got a really strongly dark pigmented color here. And I can just come through. Kind of start, again, a little water, high pigment on this. I think I'm gonna clear the brush again, and then just blend some of this out just a little bit. And yeah, okay, I think that's good enough. I think it sells the idea. I think it sells the basic idea that it's kind of silver on top of there. And that's all I'm really going for in this tutorial. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of this red coloration here. Because I want this piece to be red. Maybe a little bit too heavy on the water there, but I was trying to break it up a little bit. But that'll be nice because it'll allow me to kind of come in here and mess with this a little bit more. And what I can do is kind of mix in a little bit of blue to kind of get a little bit of a darker kind of brown here. And that'll let me build some of these kind of brownish violet shadows. I didn't realize the phone had fallen quite this much, but hopefully you can kind of still see and understand a little bit of what's going on here. If I was really doing this, and I was trying to do it as efficient as possible or to a different standard, I think what I would have done is definitely segmented more of the different areas, the different drawings, stuff like that. Just kind of made it a little bit more official in terms of doing like a better color mapping and everything prior to coming in with this actual painting aspect. But you know, I figured you were wanting to have fun more so initially. So I kind of did it with that intent, not really trying to make a professional painting, more or less just trying to kind of give you a quick little understanding of what to do when you're trying to paint some of these things. And then, you know, I messed up here earlier. So I think one thing I'm going to do is come back in here and I'm just going to be like, oh, there looks like there was looks like that it had just gone off recently. So there's some kind of smoke coming out of here. And that's what happened there. You know, nothing of Nothing that's not supposed to be there. But yeah, I think one thing that I might even do from here is, I mean, I could just keep going in and blending and rendering, and I could even break out a paint pen if I really wanted to, and add in back some of these highlights. But yeah, I think that pretty much serves the purpose of what I'm trying to show you. So yeah, that's just like a quick tutorial on some of the different ins and outs of the phone died, but yeah, that's the final product. Again, this is kind of what I'm working for. Not an exact match, but I wasn't so much as going for that. I was just trying to show you some more basics. If I were to be really vigilant, what I would have done is maybe pre-prep some of these colors and did a more blocking in, things like that. But I think you're trying to have more fun. I like to have fun with watercolors. But yeah, you get the point. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I'm sure I could render this a lot more and make it look a lot better, but yeah, I think it turned out pretty well. I think it's fun. But thank you for watching. I hope this taught you something, and Raquel, I love you. I hope this helps you in your road to mastering watercolors. I think my next steps is I'm gonna edit this video, upload it, and then go to bed. So